Well, hello, that's me again. Today is April 25th, it is Thursday, and let's not procrastinate because we have a lot to talk about, and it's quickening. We live through some incredible time. Let's start with this thing. Here is General Mr. Timur Ivanov. As you can see yourself, on the right you can see Monica Bellucci, and on the left his glamorous wife, which he divorced something like, well, a few months ago, obviously for some reason, because he probably understood that he was being developed by the FSB. So this is Mr. Ivanov. Here, as you can see yourself, he is already behind the glass in the courtroom. It's arraignment, and he went there with the uniform. After that, he was taken out without uniform, hands behind his back. And people just, convoyed him into the what's called the black car, so to speak, black van, and he is now in jail. So for all those specialists, there are many of them, all those Russian specialists in the Ministry of Defense, and all that, who never served a day in the armed forces, who do not understand what special departments are military counterintelligence. I will tell you only one thing, which, by the way, Mr. Peskov, I agree with him, stated very clearly. Don't follow any kind of all those, people who do not know what they're talking about. Listen to the official version, because official version, of course, was the bribe. Not very large bribe. Just to give you example, the bribe allegedly was with 1 million rubles, but for you to understand what is this, what all this means, Mr. Shoigu, being Minister of Defense, has the salary of 16.5 million rubles a year. It's more than 1 million, about 1.4, 1.3 probably million rubles a month. Mr. Timur Ivanov, being deputy, he probably was getting somewhere between 12 to 14 maybe million rubles. So getting the bribe in the size of the 1 month's salary, it's just ridiculous. And we understand it is all the cover story. He was taken for something else. Most likely, especially since it was military counterintelligence, which was, and he was in development for 5 years. It has everything to do not only with the corruption schemes. You have to understand, Mr. Ivanov is not cadre officer. He was brought on board because he knew the, construction industry. Essentially, he was the guy who roughly would translate as the, general quartermaster. And guess what? He was building the buildings. As you understand, sitting on the contracts and dispensation of the contracts can make you a billionaire with the letter B. And that's probably what happened, because as you can see yourself, as I already showed you, his wife, who is socialite, which means basically glamorous bitch. So, and she loved to travel first class. She loved to rent all those expensive yachts, for example, like $150,000 a week, and things of this nature. Obviously, you cannot do it even on the salary of even the deputy minister. So we have to understand, it's not just corruption scheme. And there is another game going on there, because it's all under supervision of not the investigative committee. It's under supervision of the FSB guys. So, and when you look attentively at this glamorous general, and you have to understand, many people already have been arraigned. And it is a network, not only corruptioners, but also the people who are probably involved in some activity which falls under the supervision of counterintelligence. We're not going to be making much noise about it for now, but you know what, as I already stated, the moment he was arrested, I posted the post in my blog. You can read it, and this is of course, yeah, 1 million rubles is just, probably the last straw. Evidently he was warned before to stop, not just, whatever we'll figure out after all facts will come together. Many of them probably will not be made public at all. So, but yeah, it's not only about corruption. and it's actually a healthy process. And for now, yeah, well, you can make out whatever you want, but evidently that's good, positive move that such a Moscow Mall possible. I don't know. So, but make your own conclusions. So, anyhow, this is that's what I was talking about yesterday, and so now we're gonna go and talk about something which is so bizarre, so freaking out of this world, and that will explain to you why everybody understands that, yeah, it's over in Ukraine. It's over. I have many people, and hey, some of them I understand, they are frustrated American patriots. They grew up thinking that America is everything, just in terms of military, is just finest fighting force in history, which it is not, nowhere near. And that the fact that it can blow up some hamlet in Afghanistan or Iraq, it doesn't make one a great military power. I mean, naval-wise, yeah, United States is a great naval power and will remain so for a while. But here comes this thing. First, Viktor Orban, he actually summarizes it. He kind of encapsulates the whole thing today when he says, you know what, liberal world order must be destroyed, and he talks about it. He's talking about it in the practical present present term, because obviously it's being killed in Ukraine, and it's pretty much finished there. So here it is. Western liberal hegemony has failed and must be destroyed. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban stated on Thursday, suggested it could end as soon as this year. Yes. Why is he saying so? Because special military operation unleashed historic forces which United States wasn't prepared to deal with. And militarily, as I already stated, it was shown basically that, NATO is a paper tiger. And if you listen to my interview to Nima, or for example, my friend Garland Nixon yesterday, we talk about it. Real economy, that's what really matters in the world, not all those money. Although, let me put it this way, two can tango, it takes two to tango, and two can play the games. So here we have, obviously, the issue of their funds. So, as you know, the United States wants to expropriate funds. But here is just the simple reminder that, not everything is really not bumpy, even for the United States, which wants to push Europe to expropriate $300 billion of funds as Russia freezes assets of largest U.S. bank. And it was done on the request and, filing of the suit by second largest lender in Russia, Vneshtorgbank, VTB, which has filed a lawsuit seeking to recover $439.5 million that is blocked abroad under US-led sanctions. And VTB sued JP Morgan. And you know what? Guess what? Russians will do the same. And the question is, of course, how much money or how much in assets Europe has in Russia. Well, I can tell you, in trillions. So, and how to put it politely, as I already stated, it takes two to tango, and two can play the game. And actually, also, Russian Foreign Ministry already stated very clearly that if something happens with those 8 billion, which were given the right to Mr. Biden to expropriate from Russia, well, guess what? Russia will lower diplomatic relations. And believe me, that will have pretty much all CIA staff will be thrown out of Russia because of that. And Russia will also retain, probably on the level of the consular services, something in Washington, D.C. And that's about it. But Russia doesn't care. And as I already stated, many people do not understand what is happening. Although Mr. Orban evidently does. He understands what is happening. And so to demonstrate to you why it all turned out to be an absolute how to put it politely, I sometimes think that I know everything in terms of how stupid they can go. Well, guess what? I'm mistaken. There is no freaking limit to, absolute sheer military idiocy which is being performed in front of our eyes. And to demonstrate to you, here it is. Oh my gosh, it's, how to put it politely, it's indescribable. So, here we have this situation. You know what? I fail to find the words. So, U.S. Navy to turn Pacific oil rigs into mobile military bases to counter China. Under the so-called Mobile Defense Depot Platform, MODEP, concept, the oil rigs will serve as a mobile missile defense and resupply bases to respond to escalating missile threats in the region. Good God, I mean, these are people who come up with these things. Obviously, they have no understanding of the modern warfare. They do not understand of the missile tech, which is not surprising. They do not understand the salvo model. And when you look at this, it's just like, mobile? Do you understand what it means to move those rigs? But even if you move at whatever velocity, 2-3 knots maybe, oh my gosh, maybe 5, it doesn't matter in the modern missile paradigm. They are perfect fat targets, and no matter what you put on there, we already saw in Israel how good, quote unquote, obviously I'm being facetious, all this Western air defense is. It sucks, okay? It cannot intercept anything modern, and even old things it absolutely cannot intercept. So they want to go against China's getting pretty accurate hypersonic ballistic missiles. Good luck with that. But guess what? This is not just something new. This is sheer idiocy. The absolute cretinism in terms of the military planning has a deep roots, and it has a very long history. And let me show you what was this all about. And this was about this. You see this? Mobile offshore base. This was the concept in the 90s, which United States was still enamored with their air power, thinking that if you bombed with the impunity some third world crap hole, that you are really great in terms of, air power. And understandable, United States is the motherland of the air flight, here we have it. Now, look how it looks like, actually, originally. It's actually a GIF thing, but I had to make that print screen. You see, they wanted to create this thing, 1,500 meters, well, 1 mile almost long, with their, as you can see, self-airstrip, which could accept not only actually their fighters, something like FA-18 or, for example, the early warning planes such as Hawkeyes and things of this nature. No! C-17, no less. And that contraption should have been moving with some speed. And let me tell you, it's unfreaking believable. Let's start review what they were thinking about. That tells you the degree of the sheer idiocy which dominates actually those people who do not understand what modern war is. Actually, the MOB study was Mobile Offshore Base Operational Utility and Cost Study was done already in January 2001. Actually, it was one of those things, and it was done in 2001 here, then it was in 1998, then it was in 2000-something-3, and there were a lot of happy masturbators in the military-industrial complex on this absolute idiotic idea. So, but guess how they actually... One of the guys who created the study, the U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel, he wrote this. Look at this. This is their justification for this thing. Armed with advanced radars and weapons that can engage incoming ballistic or cruise missiles, the MOB could be considered for use as a large missile defense platform at sea. It could be used to defend a local area at sea, including itself and other nearby naval commercial ships, protect a larger theater region, including land areas, as a part of theater missile defense, and position itself to defend the United States and allies from strategic ballistic missiles as a part of national missile defense. Each of these three roles would require progressively longer range weapons, as well as radar and other sensors needed to support engagement. That was in 2001. We already know that basically the whole thing just failed through because NAVSEA and actually deemed it absolutely impractical. But here it is. Here's what this colonel, R.M. Nixon, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Marine Corps, the Naval War College of the Department of the Navy. This is 96 paper. Look how he formulates utility of this contraption, which actually won't be able to operate because of the physics of the environment. And there have been many type of the studies. Here it is. Most important thing about it, he writes, show force, the arrival of MOB in the area of operations demonstrates our unmistakable willingness to bring forces to bear without dependence on permission of other countries. A show of force using MOB can be escalatory in nature. And of course, presence, one of the pillars of US military strategy for the last 50 years has been presence. So, okay, so what do? They come up with this absolutely preposterous idea. There you can find many studies. There are mechanics and mathematics, obviously. There are all kinds of the liquid mechanics there. A lot of formulas, a lot of all kinds of the calculus and vectors and things like that, which actually done by, you can easily find, for example, Portuguese guys doing study on this thing and saying that, well, it can operate only if there's a pretty much calm sea. Once it becomes, stormy, and there are other things, happen, like, for example, it's being hit with the waves at all different course angles, for example. So that thing begins to, no matter how you do, you cannot reach the rigidity for this thing, for it to withstand all those storms and actually land any aircraft. Forget about missile defenses. But obviously people do not understand that this contraption, which is nothing more than the airstrip, no matter how many you put all those, whatever they have, Aegis type, anti-ballistic missiles, well, Aegis is basically a computer essentially, but all those SM2 and SM3s, doesn't matter. They will not be able to intercept modern anti-shipping missiles. And, well, if you would need probably a couple of Onyxes to sink something like the Arleigh Burke class destroyer, for that thing, well, yeah, you can just basically launch modern hypersonic missiles, and guess what? You don't have to even sink and just blow out, the strip itself, and that's it. It's, fat, huge target sitting in the water. So guess what? When we thought that this idiocy was forgotten, no, they want not to make all those, things, which, by the way, has the actually precedent in the World War II. British, at the estuary of Thames, they placed a number of those air defense, so to speak, towers in the water, but then again, it was the World War II, guys. The bombs were very inaccurate, the planes were slow, and you could use the actually air defense guns to stop them. And actually, you would be surprised that it was effective. That United Kingdom, essentially, especially when developing the theory of air defense during those so-called blitz, they actually have been fairly effective in shooting down German planes. And so now you have this idiotic idea. Good luck withstanding a strike or two by hypersonic missiles. In the end, there is always tactical nukes. You can just simply blow up this whole thing to smithereens. But yes, they continue with this idiotic idea. They cannot let it go. The reason they cannot let it go, because they have nothing more. They do not understand how to fight the war. Although, let me tell you, as always, we have some creeps, obviously they are anonymous. Look at this. US would beat China in a war, Intel official. And the PLA has strong capabilities, but the Americans have experience. And experience in what? Losing wars and bombing something with the impunity. That's the experience they have. And the unnamed official gave a background briefing on Monday about threats facing the US military. He downplayed the Chinese H-2 stealth bomber. Okay, whatever. Currently in development, as probably nowhere near as good as the American B-2 or the upcoming B-21, while praising Chinese J-2 fighter as highly capable. That tells you immediately that this official is an amateur, most likely with some political science degree, and even if he has the degree from military, he has no idea, because all those bombers are done. First, there's no stealth bombers anymore, for starters, and somebody has to tell him this news. But the point is, those are platforms. They have to launch standoff weapons. Only idiot will dream about penetrating air defense, such as Chinese, let alone Russian, and bombing something with the, whatever, gliding bombs or gravity bombs. So that tells you the level of the imbecility of whatever the propaganda they spew around. And so he said, the biggest challenge for Chinese side is actually not so much capability of actual systems. It is more capability of personnel to effectively employ those systems at speed and at scale, the official quoted. While the military has a lot of experience fighting wars, yes, United States has a lot of experience of fighting the high level, high intensity police operations. United States has no experience of fighting wars. Whenever and even police operations such as Afghanistan, it loses. So here, the thing, they think that they can somehow, deliver some kind of strike. Of course they can launch. But the problem is they don't understand. China outranges them in the standoff weapons by, many times. And when you look at this, it's just, are those people even literate? Do they understand how the salvos are structured, how the strategies are developing for this type of the war? Evidently not. United States doesn't know what it is to receive a salvo of lovely, Onyx or caliber missiles at the headquarters or command and control centers. They just don't. They think that the Patriot is a good complex. It sucks, but hey, whatever. THAAD, they didn't want to launch THAAD at the Korean missiles because, as one of the American generals went on the record, you can easily find it in CNN, New York Times and whatever, because they didn't want to be embarrassed because it would fail to intercept those primitive North Korean missiles. So, and when you have to understand now that they are, as Orban says, this year is, we're already seeing it's actually disintegrating. It's coming apart at the seams. And if that hasn't been enough, here is another thing. And you know what? Here's this amateur dude, which for some reason passes in Forbes for military specialist. I don't know, only in the United States. Well, not only, but at least United States is much worse. Russia also has the creeps like that. But look at this. A Ukrainian brigade disappeared, and the Russian brigade almost broke through. How the battle for Ocheretne upended the war in Ukraine this weekend. And so did this David X dude, who won't understand actually any operational coefficient and any operational planning. He talks about that the 47th Mechanized Brigade is one of the Ukrainian army best brigades, equipped with American-made armored vehicles and trained to NATO standards. So it's actually that automatically makes it not the best, because NATO standards suck and they have nothing to do with the real war. It fights like the best NATO brigades fight, swiftly, violently, and often at night. So the guy is a complete idiot, and so are the people in Forbes who provide this propagandist, cheap propagandist who wouldn't know how to command a platoon, let alone a company in defense. But actually, I don't remember NATO brigades fighting swiftly, violently, and often at night, except for the fighting against the totally demoralized, under-trained, under-equipped Iraqi forces. So if he thinks that this is really a standard, I have a breach to sell him. But again, the guy has no shame. He is just BS, they pay money to him. And so he talks about these 47 brigades. And yes, I already posted it from my friend Marat Khairulin, who is exactly in the battle lines there. And you know what? He shows, yeah, they are disintegrating there. And all those, yeah, 47 mechanized, they simply ran away. They didn't leave or anything. They indeed evaporated because they absolutely do not want to fight Russian troops. But look at this. This is David X. The guy is absolutely incorrigible. But this prowess, what prowess, is a blessing and a curse for the brigade's 2,000 troopers. The Ukrainian command wants 47 mechanized brigade to be wherever the heavy fighting is. So yeah, I mean, here's the guy and those American advisors who are absolutely, again, I'm not sure they really teach them proper warfare in West Point or elsewhere in the military institutions in the United States anymore. And he's talking about the delaying donuts, so preventing the garrison eventual retreat. It's not a retreat, moron. They have simply evaporated and started to surrender in this company and battalion, whatever was left of battalions size. So, and here it is. They need to cover it up. They need to cover what Mr. Orban talks about openly. Russians talk about it all the time. For example, take me. I'm Russian, but, you know, so I talk about it all the time. It's over. You cannot fight the war. Learn the real war. Learn how it is done, how it is fought on the level of the nation state. It's government, it's state structures, it's industry. They don't have no idea, those people. As we already know, Mr. Blinken was received by deputy mayor of whatever, Shanghai. So yeah, it's just, I mean, the West is being slapped into the face. And if that hasn't been enough, just to demonstrate to you, I am critical of Quincy Institute. I don't believe in any good ideas behind it. And here we have another, you know, blooper. Looks like those people just cannot stop doing this. Look at this. Last time I spoke about this north-south corridor, which ties Russia, Azerbaijan, and Iran together and breaks the corridor to India. But look at this. Here's responsible statecraft, Quincy, you know, Institute. I do not want to, shame this Maya Crane girl. She probably is some intern for whatever they, all those institutes, starting from Council of Foreign Relations to RAND. They create those fictitious, how to put it, titles for the jobs and fictitious degrees. But here she is. She talks about Russia, China dump the dollars, Moscow announces new trade corridor. Exactly. I was talking about this corridor yesterday, last video. This is the corridor north-south. It's through St. Petersburg, down through Baku to Iran, and using the Caspian Sea. Now here is, yesterday, this is what they say. This plan includes 2 new transport corridors, one that would link Russia to Kyrgyzstan via the Caspian Sea. After I recovered myself from falling on the floor, I started to scratch my head and thinking, why would Russia need the corridor to Kyrgyzstan, especially with the Caspian Sea? I thought maybe I'm just, something wrong with me, but then I went to the maps. And as you can see yourself, Russia needs to get the corridor to Caspian Sea and then start, crossing Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan for some reason to get into the dead end, economically, culturally, whatever, Kyrgyzstan, which is primarily in the mountains. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? These are new plans. I never heard about those plans of Russia connecting through Caspian Sea to Kyrgyzstan. Because if Russia needs to get to Kyrgyzstan, she can easily do it through Kazakhstan, through existing railways, which actually go through Almaty. And you can get to Bishkek, the capital of Kyrgyzstan, easily. So, but hey, what can I say? The same as all this absolute sheer idiocy of people spewing absolute, I don't know, I mean, I have no actually words to describe it. I have no words to describe the complete implosion of any kind of expertise, of any kind of the critical thinking or knowledge, basic knowledge. We're not talking about somebody going down and, resolving vectors and calculating the, whatever the resultants on the some forces acting upon some freaking floating device. No, we're talking about basic facts, which any anybody who has any brain can understand. But here we are. Here we have this, the floating platforms, those mobile offshore bases. I mean, absolute fantasies which have no ground in any reality. And if that hasn't been enough, here is the very sad story. Today is one of the anniversaries of those very important events. And here we have an American veteran complained that it was difficult to celebrate the meeting on Elbe. Yes, in April 25, in 1945, Soviet and American troops linked at the Elbe, at the Torgau. It was a historic meeting of the Allies. Well, guess what? As one of them says, the United States, as the American authorities, canceled a solemn ceremony at the National Cemetery in Arlington. World War II veteran Frank Cohn said in an interview with RIA News that I'm afraid there are difficulties with the celebration on the anniversary of the Elbe meeting, said 90-year-old Cohn. And he continues, I mean, it's heartbreaking, really. And he talks about now the American side has canceled the ceremony at Arlington Cemetery, and I'm afraid that the memory of the meeting on the Elbe will be erased. He absolutely correct. It will be erased. Everything is being rewritten. The whole history of the 20th century is being rewritten. And in consumed memories of this historic meeting were the last thread that connected the US and Russia to the days when the countries were allies. During the Cold War, we were already rivals, but we still kept the memory of the Elbe, that we were once allies and we had the same goals. It was always nice to remember this. Yes, I know, I subscribe to this veteran and to those heroic American troops which fought through to link up with Red Army. But it is a tragedy. But then again, with people who are in power, with people who run all this cultural, social, governmental milieu, so to speak, masters of discourse in the West today, they have no honor, they have no integrity, they don't understand anything. They don't understand war, they do not understand sacrifice because they are spoiled children and infantile crooks who are basically hanging around for their own enrichment and if it need be to, rewrite the history of the World War II, such as, for example, Mr. Anthony Beaver does. He just simply falsifies all of it, or any other, the propagandists. So be it. And yes, it will be forgotten, it will be erased from the memory, as will be erased from the memory the sacrifice and the victory. Soviet Union took the brunt of the Axis forces and destroyed them. But it is what it is. What can I say? So anyhow, this is what I wanted to tell you today. And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And I'll talk to you later, guys. Have a nice rest of the day, or this week for that matter. Bye-bye.